Welcome everyone to Krypton to Alderaan. I'm Joey, your Star Wars lover, and with me is Roish Goodlooks, your Star Wars song guy.
Hello, podcast. Hello, Joey.
Hello. The Acolyte just ended, and we want to do something we've always wanted to do for like every Star Wars show, which is have a post-season chat about the show, reflect back on it, point out more things that we liked, didn't like about it, have a more in-depth discussion outside of having to review it every week as soon as it is coming out. We say we want to do this after every Star Wars show, and so we're actually going to sit down and do it with the Acolyte. But before we do, we want to / need to go back and rewatch the season. We'd love for you to join us. We could do like a KTA community rewatch here and let's discuss it as a community.
Yeah, there's too much to talk about in just one 30-minute episode of our weekly reviews. And we normally focus in on like maybe 1 to 2, 2 to 3 scenes at most. You know, we don't do a beat by beat review. We're not going to rehash everything, but to have the opportunity to talk about some of the scenes we didn't get to talk about, and also just through the rewatch, what are we picking up on a second time? There's 2 main reasons I would really like to rewatch The Acolyte. And number 1, I just love Star Wars. It doesn't matter if it's the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, the sequel trilogy, even Rogue One or Solo. If those are on TV, I'm leaving the channel on and I'm going to watch it again. I'm always up for watching, or in this case, rewatching Star Wars. Number 2, whether or not it's a perfect show or a perfect movie, our rewatch is where the magic is. All of the things that we missed the first time, you know, the subtleties, the music, the acting, the dialogue. For me, you know, the more you watch something, the more you can appreciate it, the more things you're going to pick up on, probably the better it gets. I mean, this is the prequels and the sequels for me. I think we could all agree there's probably lots of stuff in the prequels and sequels that at some point, maybe not now, but at some point probably rubbed you the wrong way. And over time, upon rewatch, you're smoothing out those rough opinions. So now we can go back and watch the entire thing with all the context there. It's going to make for an even better conversation on our next pod.
So I really liked what you said, Royce, and I'm feeling a lot of the same way about like, yeah, I want to rewatch The Acolyte for a couple of reasons. One, I'd love to discuss it as a whole with our KTA community here. And when we're going into something like this, I go into it wanting to like it, right? It doesn't always happen that way, which is kind of a bummer when it doesn't happen because I love it so much. So I go into it wanting to like it. So with that in mind, I would love to rewatch it and pick up on more of the stuff I missed or the stuff that I didn't miss, but really, really enjoyed and would love to see again. You know, there's so much of that in this show for me to where I know in a rewatch, I will be like, oh, I can't wait till we get to this part, because I do think there are incredible breadcrumbs dropped early on and also throughout the series that lead into the next big thing. And it will be so great to go back and in a more binging capacity to see that play out more quickly. 2, I really, really enjoyed The Acolyte. So I am like super game to go back and watch it. There's so much that I had liked. And so it's been a huge net positive for me. The Jedi stuff, the lore, the complexity, there's tremendous value to be gotten from going back and understanding Mae and Osha's relationship and motivations more. I think that will play out much better for a lot of us upon a rewatch that we can do kind of sequentially, maybe a little bit faster. The Sith stuff, the lore, the kyber crystals, the fighting sequences, the witch stuff, there's just so many great nuggets here. That's the kind of stuff that has made Star Wars special to me.
I love that you're excited to see like your favorite parts again, because that's not really where my head goes initially. It's like, I want to see what I missed. Or like you're saying, things maybe with Osha and Mae, like I'm confused on that. I need to watch it again. You know, with Ahsoka, that the World in Between Worlds episode, I'm confused by that. I need to watch that again, right? So I'm looking forward to that. But you're right. There are even moments that, you know, to see the mid-season episodes day leading into night, when we get that Jedi battle back to back, like that's going to be so much more fun on this second time through, which we knew when we were talking about that week to week, like, oh, when we go back, now we have that opportunity to enjoy that in a totally different light. But again, my mind wasn't going there, but yeah, you're reminding me that that's going to be another way, another thing we're going to enjoy on this second watch through.
it's easy to get caught up. Like you said, we discuss maybe 1 or 2 scenes when we're analyzing an episode, but there's so much stuff that we don't get to talk about, and there's so much stuff we missed. And there was so much stuff in this show that I was that Leonardo DiCaprio meme pointing at the TV. Like I have seen other creators point out, Qimir in episode 2 talks about the Jedi erasing his memory.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we see that happen at the end. And so like, okay, what does that mean for his and Vernestra's relationship? Did she try to erase his memory? What happened? That really gets the Star Wars fan / content creator wheels turning in my mind. And that's so exciting to go back and see those little details, not even little details, but those details, and pick up on that stuff.
Yeah. Okay, spoiler alert. I already have watched the first 2 episodes. I just haven't completed the binge again. I might even restart it now that we're having this conversation to just to do it all in the same frame of mind. But Qimir's character, when he's on Olega, he's being so shady, but he's acting. He's acting as a character, acting as another character. So that's so brilliant. Maybe his reveal was kind of obvious. They didn't blow everyone's mind that he was the Dark Lord, evil villain of the season. But to be able to watch it knowing that ahead of time confirmed, that has already paid off for me.
I love that too, because another thing I think this show did really well is have obvious reveals like that, but have it so worth it in the actual show. Like I was back and forth with Qimir. I was like, I think he's the bad guy, but is that too obvious? And then they were on Kofar together and I was like, oh, now it's really obvious. But it paid off so well. Revealing him as the villain wasn't necessarily the story beat there because of the rest of what that meant. Like, Jedi like you might call me Sith. I'm just looking to wield my powers. And there was such intrigue in that information that we get after the reveal that it made the quote unquote obvious reveal not really matter all that much to me. So I think the show messed with our heads a little bit in that way, in a really good way. And I'm excited to see that stuff again. Like you said, now there's even kind of more power in our hands with knowing this stuff ahead of time. So we might not even pay attention to that stuff. And in doing so, glean more from those scenes.
Yeah, we're probably going to fall more in love with characters that we already were like, oh, that's cool. It's going to embolden that even further. I'm hoping man, we love Saul so much in this first half of the season, then we're like, oh, it turns out he's kind of a bad guy, I guess. I don't think there's a way to maybe completely redeem him through this, but it will be interesting to apply that same sort of thinking onto him because we won't be guessing about, what is he withholding this whole time? Every time he stops himself, we complained week to week. When is he going to get to the truth here? When is he going to tell us what actually happened? Every moment that he stops himself from revealing the full truth to Osha or anybody else in the show, at all those moments, now we have the full context. Another thing we're sort of skirting around here is, our opinions can change. There's been so many strong opinions on how people have felt about this show. Week to week, our opinions change. And through a whole binge, I'm ready for it to change one more time. And even a year from now, 10 years from now, to bring this back to the prequels and the sequel discussion, what's made those properties so worthwhile is the freaking rewatch where you're like, now I see it a little bit differently. Or there's another piece of content, The Bad Batch and Rise of Skywalker. How did Palpatine return? Oh, that's kind of cool now. There's all of this respect that you can give to a work of art such as The Acolyte that it's not really getting in full force right now from the fandom at large. I know it's not everybody, but who knows how this can further tie the Plagueis stuff. It's not all revealed within this one season. Maybe we get a season 2, maybe not. But I love the prospect that this can then connect to our future properties or even current properties through another third party. Who knows? We could have an animated High Republic series. The Bad Batch is phenomenal, dude. They could do the same exact thing for The Acolyte that we've done for Rise of Skywalker with a show that's set in between the prequels and the originals. That's crazy. That resolves the stupidest line. People love to complain about Acolyte dialogue. The dumbest dialogue from Rise of Skywalker has been totally redeemed in my book because of an amazing animated children's show.
Yeah. Yeah. Any Star Wars has cringy, campy dialogue. It's part of Star Wars. It's inherent in Star Wars DNA. But I love the prequels because of the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars animated show elevates the prequels to me. I don't necessarily need the Acolyte to be elevated for me. I really like the Acolyte, and I can give lots of lines of evidence why. And I love the High Republic, and maybe that plays into it a little bit as well. But there's so many things that I loved about this show that I'm super excited to go back and rewatch, and then come back and talk about more in depth why I loved these parts, how they connect to the broader Star Wars galaxy, how they connect to these other stories. And, maybe it will change my opinion on some stuff that we saw early on that didn't pay off, etc. There's lots of room for our opinions to grow here in either direction, like you're saying.
And I love tying this in with the prequels because I was like 10 years old when Phantom Menace came out, and I had no problem with it. I had no problem with Jar Jar. I had a little Jar Jar figurine. I had the Gungan Frontier PC game. I had no issues with the prequels when they came out. It was all other opinions that I had heard, other people complaining about it. And yes, I can also beat up on the prequels. There's cringy stuff, whatever. But as a kid, I was just into it. And I do kind of feel that way, at least like collectively on our discussions of the Acolyte. It's like, I'm just liking it to like it. I'm not here to prove that this is the best Star Wars ever or whether it's ruining the originals or not. People would say, George Lucas is ruining Star Wars with the prequels. But that's not what we say now. In fact, now the prequels have become a metric for other, that's canon. That's the canon. I don't know. It's just a funny parallel to think about, like the 10-year-old version of myself just enjoying the prequels without any care for the discourse online. Maybe similar with the Acolyte, although we're constantly battling people in the comments over it. But it's similar that we're like, I had the Phantom Menace on VHS tape and I wore the damn tape out. And that's exactly what I'm going to do with the Acolyte. We're going to do this rewatch, see how we feel about it. I hope that whoever's listening is going to join in with us. And if you are going to join in, leave your comments here. We'd love to keep the conversation going this week. And of course, next week, make sure to subscribe, tune in for more nerdy pop culture, but mostly Star Wars. Thank you for listening to the show today. I've been Royce.
This time, I've actually been Joey.
And we've been Krypton 2. Actually, Alderaan
this time.